Hey guys, Andy here from Mediocre Hobbies, bringing you an interesting painting tutorial. As this video is released, I am prowling the halls of Warhammer Fest and trying out the new 10th edition rules, which I'm very excited to do, so future me is having a great time. As we know, Tyranids are going to be the main bad guys for this edition of Warhammer 40,000, or so it seems from the initial launch box. And they've shown off quite a few beautiful new Hive fleets. They have teased just images of them, absolutely no names, no information about where they come from or how they fight or anything like that. But I thought it would be very fun if I attempted, with having such little information, painting up a model from each of these new Hive fleets very quickly and effectively, in case any of you guys out there are as excited as I am to get stuck into Tyranids in 10th edition. 2 out of the 3 models turned out absolutely fantastic, and I would be hard pressed not to do a small Tyranid force. The other one was fine, it's just not very me, if that makes perfect sense. But I'll let you guys decide at the end which one you think I'm not that into and which 2 do you like the most. So put that in the comments below and see if we're all on the same wavelength. Before I get into the video, I just want to say a huge thank you to all of my active patrons. Without you guys, I would not be able to continue doing what I'm doing in any capacity. So thank you guys so much. If you're interested in getting involved in my Patreon, there's links to it below. Benefits include private Discord server. You can get involved in all the different activities that I run from there. And you get an extra video every single week from me. So that's 52 extra videos a year for being a member of the Patreon or a channel member. Thank you guys so much for listening. Let's get painting some Tyranids. So these are the images Games Workshop released a couple of weeks ago. As you can see, there is 2 unknown new Hive fleets on this page and 1 new unknown Hive fleet on this page. So that's 3 new Hive fleets that I'm going to be testing out here today. I don't have names for any of them, so these are going to be the red ones. The red one is actually one of the more interesting schemes. I thought it stood out for me a mile, and I really like the look of it. So we're going to start with Flesh Tears Red and apply this to all of the soft skin on this miniature. So basically just avoiding all of the carapace. All the models in this one have been sprayed black and then sprayed grey sear. And no, your eyes do not deceive you. These are not the new plastic Tyranids, if that's what you're thinking. They are 3D prints. I shall put a link down below in the description for where I got them from Cults. I can't actually remember the name at the moment, so I do apologize for not shouting that person out. But yeah, it's just a free sample of a gaunt. I didn't particularly want to use an actual gaunt out of a box set to do any testers with, so 3D printing is definitely a good way to do that. So once the Flesh Tears Red has been applied to all of the soft skin, I'm going to use Rattling Grime to get the basis on the shell. Rattling Grime is becoming one of my favorite new paints. It's almost another black, but it's just got a tiny hint of brown to it. It works really well for natural things like this kind of chitinous armor that the Tyranids have. And I will be using it a bunch over across these 3 different Tyranids. Once again, these are super quick and effective techniques. I'm just going to be trying to cover how you would do the skin and the armor panels. I'm not going to go over teeth and tongues and claw, any of those bits and pieces that we all know how to paint from a million different videos. So first of all, with the first 2 contrasts on, this scheme already looks amazing. Like, even just like this, I would think that's a really cool tabletop standard. You base that model and paint in the eyes and teeth, and that you're going to have a class looking Tyranid army. I'm going to throw Berserker Bloodshade over the entire thing, just to shade it all down. Add a little bit of that red tinge into the carapace, which is what that picture at the start suggested. And then while that's drying, I'm also going to throw a quick base on this thing, just so I'm not looking at the horrible white base as I go along. I just use a little bit of asphalt from AK and then dry brushed it up a little bit with some grays just to get a slightly more urban-esque style. Once that's all dry, we're left with this. And once again, I think this is a really cool result. I'm actually not going to touch the skin again from this point. I really like how it looks. If I jump to something like a Hive Tyrant, I might jump and do more work to it. But for right now, I don't think I would. Not for a Gaunt. So you've got 100 of these guys to paint in your army. I wouldn't focus on the skin anymore. Flesh Tears Red was then used to paint in between the carapace pieces again. Once again, referring back to that original picture where we saw it, he does have some bright aura, bright red showing through the cracks of his carapace. So I'm going to basically add more and more Flesh Tears Red until I'm happy with the kind of the amount of red showing through, giving me that really alien-esque look. I'm going to use Mechanica Standard Grey to add a few highlighted edges of all of the chitin parts, which is once again the armor on his back is slightly more grey than black, so that's what we're going to do with these little lines, following the kind of natural flow of the armor. And then that's my final result for the first one, called the Red Guys, whatever the hell their actual Hive Fleet name is. I really love how these guys turned out. I would be very happy to do an entire army this color, and if I didn't already have 6,500 points in an old scheme, I might be tempted to start up this one. A couple of high-res images just to give you guys an idea of what it actually looks like. And now we're ready to move on to the second one. So once again, starting from exactly the same place. This is the one that has the kind of light purple chitin and the kind of dark grey white skin. So I'm going to start with Basilicanum Grey, and like before, apply this to all of the soft parts of this miniature, avoiding all of the chitin or carapace, whatever you want to call it, on the miniature. There is something about Tyranids that is actually quite an enjoyable process to paint. You don't have to lavish lots of detail on them. And it's definitely the smaller the creatures are, the less detail there is and the less detail you have to put into the miniatures. It's only really the larger creatures that you got to put a lot of effort into. And within no time at all, you will have a huge horde on the tabletop. I'm actually going to jump straight over to the shade stage now. So Druchii Violet is going to be applied to this entire model. Basically, I just want to start with a light pallid purple across all of the armor panels. And obviously add that tint to the skin as well. We'll be darkening down the purple a little bit later with contrast, but I think this is a really nice starting point. People sometimes forget that you don't quite need to use contrast for these things. The inks and shades do a great job of it as well. But like I said, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump over to a light dry brush of a grey and dry brush the entire model. I'm going against the grain on the carapace just to get the edges and brighten them up. And then across the skin just to brighten that up as well. After that, then I'm going to go back to my Magos Purple, and that's where I'm going to try and add that deep, rich purple into the shell, giving you once again that really alien feel to it, where it's going to be real pallid on the outside, and as it gets kind of deeper into the shell, it's going to get more and more rich and purple. I would love to know which of the three schemes at the end is your favorite. Would you consider doing an army in any of these Hive Fleets, or do you already have a new Hive Fleet color in mind for yourselves? The last step I'm going to do is a Pilar Glacier, which is just a light blue. He does seem to have some blue, blue around the kind of head, like as if he's almost like a Psyker or something, and then some coming in and out of the gun. It's not a step that I particularly care for. I don't think I would add it if I was deciding to paint up this Hive Fleet myself. I like the grey and purple as is. Maybe on things like Zone Tropes I might add in the blue. But as it stands, this is the final result on the second Hive Fleet. Once again, super alien looking. I think it looks amazing. Would love to see a horde of these guys on the tabletop. This guy being photographed on a white backdrop might have been a bad idea, as you can't really see all the detail, but it still turned out quite nice. Moving on to the third and final Hive Fleet that we're going to be doing. We're going to be jumping straight back to that Rattling Grime color and applying it all over the carapace once again. All of the armored shell. You'll notice that it's different. I didn't do the soft part of the skin first. That is a-okay. As we're going to be doing that same trick we did with the Druchii Violet and using a shade, Drakenhof Nightshade shade. Adding a bunch of colors to this model with minimal effort. So like I said, make sure you go around with the Rattling Grime and find all of the armor panel. As you can see, this guy went backwards with the gun on this scheme. The gun was black and the shell part of the gun was white. I probably wouldn't have done that, to be honest. I would have kept it the way it is, the Rattling Grime on the armored panels, the gun, and then kept the gun itself white, but I don't know what they were thinking about. Volupus Pink was then used for all of the little kind of openings and sores, all the bits in between the armored legs, in between the different segments. So it would be like armpits for us and that kind of thing. All those sections were done with that, just to break it up a little bit. His tongue, and then the armored chitin on the top of the gun was done with that purple. Like I said, I probably would have done the soft skin of the model purple and kept the Rattling Grime on the armored parts. That's just me. I like keeping the symmetry on all the chitin being the same, but each to their own, I guess. Okay, like I said, I'm going to jump across to Drakenhof Nightshade now and apply this to the entire miniature, giving it that deep blue tone. People may be screaming, thinking that I'm insane here, but just trust me, wait until this dries and I get a little bit of a basic material on the bottom. This is another one of those models where I could happily leave it at that stage and think it looks absolutely fantastic, especially for the small critters that you're going to have in your Tyranid army. For larger models, I may go further, but look how cool that looks. And that took 5 minutes of work less. Like, Celestra Grey is then used to dry brush once again all over the miniature, catching that soft skin, and then once again going against the grain on all of the chitin just to catch those edges. Now the chitin that they have in the example of this particular Hive Fleet is darker than this, so we will be jumping over to a Black Templar contrast again. I'm going to be adding it about 50-50 with water to darken it down a bit. I don't want it to have full opacity. Basically, when I apply this over the chitin now, those lines we caught with the dry brush will still show through. We'll definitely have a bit of definition on the armor panels, and it will darken it down quite a lot. Like I said, I'm just doing this to follow the example that they set with the picture. I don't know whether I would bother adding this layer myself. That after that dry brush, I was really happy with both the chitin and the skin on this miniature. Screamer Pink was then brought in to highlight all of the soft skin and the chitin on his gun for some reason on the model. And then once again, I will paint up the tongue and teeth and eyes and all those kind of bits and pieces myself off camera. Not really very important. Painting the gun, the eye on the gun yellow. Remember that the gun held by Tyranid is a separate organism. It's another creature. Including the ammunition that's fired is all alive. Terrifying. So once the highlights are done, we'll go into some more high definition pictures of the final result of this guy. Once again, I think this guy turned out fantastic. Please let me know in the comments which one is your favorite, which one you would think about doing yourselves. Okay guys, and there we have it, a finished video painting up 3 of the new Hive Fleets, all named unknown in the information we have so far. I will update this video description, title and stuff later on if the names of these guys become relevant and they become public and we get to know what they are, just so it's easier for you guys to find in the future. Thank you guys so much for sticking around in the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you give it a like. If you're not already subscribed to my channel, it would mean the world to me. If you took 2 seconds every day, smash that subscribe button. Ask me any questions you have in the comments below. I will get back to each and every one of you guys. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next video.